Communications Incorporated. Good afternoon and welcome to King's News Broom. 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our own world. Today is Monday, November 25, 2024, and I'm Shemon Dia presenting. In the headline, Supreme Court of Liberia issues stay order, directing the majority bloc of the House of Representatives to halt all actions and return to status quo. Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency Director General Designate accuses Coalition for Democratic Change administration of flooding the agency with over 1,500 unauthorized personnel. And also in the news, Bond County District 5 Representative Eugene Colley terms the majority bloc action as a disrespect to the ECOWAS Parliament mediation delegation. And away from home, at least 24 people have died after two boats carrying mostly Somali nationals campsite off the coast of Madagascar, local authorities said. These plus our news bulletin, voices of those making the news are all packaged, but we'll take a break to be right back. Welcome back. At this juncture, we join Sam Andrews with the news bulletin.
The Supreme Court of Liberia has issued a stay order directing the majority bloc of the House of Representatives to halt all action and return to status quo ante while it reviews a petition filed by House Speaker J. Fonati Kofa and his allies. In a writ issued Friday, the court instructed the Minister of Justice and the members of the House of Representatives involved in the dispute to submit their responses by November 26. The court also ordered the majority bloc, led by Montserrado County Representative Richard Kuhn, to cease all actions until the matter is adjudicated. The injunction mandated Brigadier General Amos Dixon, Marshal of the Supreme Court, or his deputy, to notify the Minister of Justice and reference lawmakers to file their official responses. It said they must appear and file their returns on the side of the law before the full bench of the Supreme Court on tomorrow, Tuesday at 9 a.m. as to whether or not the petitioner's petition should not be granted. The order further instructed the parties to return to status quo ante and still all further proceedings or actions pending the determination of the matter. The House of Representatives has been embroiled in a bitter leadership conflict, splitting into two factions: the majority bloc citing allegations of corruption, conflict of interest, and poor leadership, and accused Speaker Kofa of ignoring their concerns. The crisis escalated when the majority bloc, comprising a significant number of lawmakers, abandoned the main chambers and began holding sessions in the joint chambers. On November 21, the group controversially declared the speaker's seat vacant and elected Representative Richard Kuhn as their new speaker. They also dissolved committees formed under Speaker Kofa and appointed new ones. The Director General Designate of Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has accused the former Coalition for Democratic Change administration of flooding the agency with over 1,500 unauthorized personnel, referred to as action agents, who were issued LDEA identification and uniforms of have been fully employed. Appearing before the Senate Committee on Security, Intelligence, and Veteran Affairs for his confirmation hearing, Anthony Soa alleged that these individuals were brought into the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency through political patronage and other informal means. According to him, the LDEA officially has 631 personnel on government's payroll, but additional 1,500 action agents operated under the agency's name-bearing official identification cards and uniforms, despite having no employment records with the national government. He promised to implement a rigorous screening and vetting process to give these individuals an opportunity to validate their employment status or be removed from the system entirely. He also highlighted the need for professional standards to prevent potential agitation or protest from disgruntled agents who may accuse his administration of politically motivated dismissal. The nominee pledged to reform the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency and ensure that its operations align with professional ethics and the legal framework that established the agency, free from political interference. Broom County District 5 Representative Eugene Colley has termed the majority bloc action as a disrespect to ECOWAS parliamentary mediation delegation. Speaking on Daybreak Africa, the lawmaker disclosed that he appreciated ECOWAS delegation for the mediation, but expressed his frustration over lawmakers of the majority bloc who refused to remedy the situation and abide by the Constitution. It can be recalled ECOWAS delegation led by the Speaker of ECOWAS Parliament, Haja Ibrahim, arrived in Liberia on Monday, November 11th, to mediate in the crisis after being commissioned by Nigerian President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, chairman of ECOWAS, Authority of Heads of States and Government, following concerns about the legislative paralysis caused by the political impasse there. But Ibrahim led delegation failed to resolve the stalemate that has rocked Capitol building for the past few weeks after meeting with both parties and other high-profile stakeholders. Rather urged continued engagements in order to have the impasse settled the soonest possible time. The Broom County lawmaker added that Article 49 of the Constitution talks about the removal of the Speaker has been violated, noting that it is a breach of the Constitution. He stated that the majority bloc lawmakers' failure to give the Speaker a due process is the reason for the continuous stalemate at the lower house. The president of the Liberia National Students Union, James Washington, has cautioned the Liberia National Police against violent invasion of the campuses of the University of Liberia. Speaking in a press conference, Washington emphasized that such actions undermine academic freedom and disrupt the learning environment, noting that as a direct representation of the students in Liberia, he is calling on the LNP to protect the grounds of learning institutions in Liberia as spaces for intellectual growth and peaceful engagement. The LNP president strongly believes that the LNP mistook the University of Liberia campuses for war zone, indicating that the videos circulating on social media were officers of the Liberia National Police who were caught on camera brutalizing students already arrested and confined, terming it as troubling and disastrous for the peace of the country, and hope that such unfounded and provocative act of the LNP does not repeat itself against any student in the Republic moving forward. He described the act of the LNP as unwarranted muggings of the University of Liberia students. Officers of the Liberia National Police have reportedly arrested one person and in search of 8 others for allegedly forging the national identification cards under the pretense of giving members of the Liberia Marketing Association loan from World Bank. The National Identification Registry Executive Director Andrew Peters disclosed that a man identified as Christopher Gadier is currently under police custody awaiting investigation and prosecution. Addressing a press conference at the weekend, Mr. Peters cautioned the public against people producing fake identification cards. According to him, anybody caught producing the national identification cards will be dealt with in accordance with law because only the National Identification Registry is clothed with the authority to produce such cards. Montserrado County District 10 Representative Yaka Kolobai is accusing Broom County District 6 lawmaker Moima Briggs Menza and the executive branch of government of being the mastermind to remove Speaker Fonati Kofa. Speaking with journalists at his Capitol building office, the District 10 lawmaker disclosed that J. Fonati Kofa is still the Speaker of the House of Representatives, noting that the majority lawmakers would take the law into their hands if members of the majority bloc refuse. That the minority lawmakers will take the laws into their hands if the members of the majority bloc refuse to adhere to the Supreme Court ruling. He added that President Bouakai will have to step down if the executive tries to intervene and not to enforce the ruling into the Supreme Court's decision on the stalemate at the lower house. Members of the National Association of Private Teachers Training Institute in Liberia have elected new officials that will steer the affairs of the association for the next 3 years. The National Teachers Association of Private Teachers Training Institute is a conglomeration of private teacher training institutions operating in Liberia. All the new officers of the association were elected on white ballot at the weekend in a mass meeting at Bozeman Junior High School on the Butcher Island. The president-elect of the association, Reverend Andrew Fire, lauded the members of the institution for the confidence reposed in him, stressing that he will work closely with the elected officials to engage national government and other partners for the forward march of the association. The Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Augustine Gwengafuan, has pledged the government commitment to quarterly engaging the Liberia Chamber of Commerce and the Liberia Business Association after limited discussions over the past 7 years. The business community, despite having a pivotal role in the economic and development trajectory of Liberia over the past several years, has the opportunity to be addressed at their business luncheon within the past 7 years by 3 ministers of government, with the latest being in 2018 and 2023 before Minister Gafuan. Despite the little attention, Liberia's national development strategies have consistently highlighted the private sector as the engine for economic growth. But despite the narrative, the government's action has been contradictory, creating an environment where policy implementation has not always matched policy statements. Addressing private sector actors, including partners at the business luncheon, which was held under the theme, Reimagining Liberia's Business Ecosystem, Transforming Challenges into Opportunities, Minister Gafon said he considered the sector as an important component of Liberia's development transformation, promising to address some of the challenges and unlock the opportunities. Minister Augustine Gwengafuan said both the government and the private sector must commit to action over a period, tasking themselves and differentiating responsibilities. He added that the process requires the Liberia Revenue Authority, the National Port Authority, the National Legislature, and the Ministry of Justice to ensure that things required by laws are understood. As the crisis at the House of Representatives deepens, the former standard bearer of the Grand Ultra Wind Party has stressed the need for the peaceful resolution of the crisis between the majority and minority blocs at the legislature. On Friday, the Supreme Court ordered the majority bloc at the House of Representatives to cease all actions and return to status quo ante while it reviews Speaker Jonathan Kofa's petition challenging his ousting. The Supreme Court, in a writ issue, directed the Minister of Justice and members of the House of Representatives involved in the dispute to file their responses by Tuesday, November 26, and ordered the majority bloc, led by Moserado County Representative Richard Kuhn, to cease all further actions until the matter is resolved. The Director General of the Commission on Higher Education, Professor Edward Onkoya, has announced that a nationwide inspection of higher education institutions in the country will take place on November 26. During a press conference at the organization headquarters in Painesville, Mr. Okoya emphasized the commitment to ensuring academic excellence, transparency, and accountability, stressing the importance of inspecting all higher education institutions in Liberia. He stated that the purpose of the inspection is to ensure that academic programs are accredited according to national and international standards and meet demands for the job market. He also mentioned that the inspection will focus on facilities, particularly libraries and classrooms, in order to create a conducive learning environment. According to him, the process will cover both private and public and private universities and colleges across the country. Mr. Okoya assured the public that the inspection will be conducted with complete transparency. Police Inspector General Gregory Coleman has revealed that 2 officers and reported wounded from a brutal attack on the police in Broadville. Speaking at the Liberia National Police headquarters in Monrovia, the police boss narrated that the police officer was informed by some members of Bambin Town in Bensonville for continuous harassment and intimidation by some unscrupulous citizens of the area. The police boss disclosed that two police officers were shot during the exchange but were later rushed to JFK Hospital, stating the need for prayers for them. According to him, the police swift intervention was able to get the situation under control, adding that some individuals have been arrested and forwarded to court for prosecution. A national non-governmental peace-building organization in Liberia has urged members of the House of Representatives to resolve the long-standing political crisis through the legal framework. The West Africa Network for Peace-Building Liberia said its attention has been drawn to the ongoing political impasse at the House of Representatives that have derailed legislative functions. Whitney observed for the past weeks with keen interest the disruption in normal proceedings at the House of Representatives. For over a month, members of the House of Representatives have been split into minority and majority blocks in a battle to oust or maintain House Speaker Fonati Kofa. The majority bloc announced Thursday that it had voted to oust Speaker Kofa and subsequently elected and sworn in Representative Richard Kuhn as their new speaker. Kofa's removal on Thursday leaves more questions as some of those who earlier opted to get him later appeared to resent their decision. And Liberia has passed 11 out of 20 indicators in the Millennium Challenge Corporation scorecard for 2025 fiscal year, marking a slight decline from the previous year, 14. Liberia's MCC 2025 scorecard reveals a mixed performance. While Liberia showcased successes in land rights, employment opportunities, political rights, civil liberties, control of corruption, rule of law, and freedom of information, these accomplishments were counterbalanced by shortcomings in fiscal policy, inflation, trade policy, government effectiveness, health expenditures, and natural resource protection, as well as guest-free education rate and the rule of law. The control of corruption indicator witnessed a 2% decline, meeting MCC's standards, but falling from last year's score. The overall score dropped to 76% compared to 79% in the previous year. Despite consistently passing the controlling corruption indicator, Liberia under President Bouakai faces challenges in implementing anti-corruption measures effectively. Almost a year into his 6-year tenure, Bouakai's anti-corruption fight rests on a tripod due to what appears to be the politicization of the anti-corruption fight and refusal to investigate accusations that some of his loyal allies have cast doubt on the fight. The MCC, established in 2004 by the U.S. Congress, aims to collaborate with the world's poorest nations committed to democratic and economic freedom.
Sam, Sam Andrews with the news bulletin. The news bulletin is irregular featured on King's News Broom. Every Monday, you listen to King's News Broom, 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our one word. One of the stories following this afternoon, Supreme Court of Liberia issues stay order, directing the majority bloc of the House of Representatives to halt all actions and return to status quo. We'll take a break to be back with voices of the newsmakers. Welcome back and thanks for being there. Bon County District 5 Representative Eugene Colley has turned the majority bloc action as a disrespect to the ECOWAS Parliament mediation delegation. Speaking on Daybreak Africa, Friday, the lawmaker disclosed that he appreciated the ECOWAS delegation for the mediation, but expressed his frustration over lawmakers of the majority bloc who refused to remedy the situation and abide by the Constitution.
Again, we appreciate the efforts of the ECOWAS delegation. I'm one person who stands by the law. ECOWAS came, we had a meeting with them, and I think for our end, there was nothing much difficult because solely the fact that we are standing by the law, we saw it prudent that, of course, they can reach out to the self-proclaimed majority bloc. And after that, we got to realize that they are putting up so many hostility and they don't want to listen to ECOWAS, that which we see as disrespect to Africa. Well, again, as it is, we still stand by the law. Article 49 of the Liberia Constitution talks about removal of a speaker just in case, but it should be by two-thirds majority. And we know that currently our opposing forces have not high the number, but they thought to leave from the usual chambers that we had our session to go to the joint chamber, which we see as being wrong. Article 33 of the Constitution also gives the right to the minority to have session day to day, and if there's no quorum, call the individual lawmaker to come to session. We have done that. We have number, but then they are not listening to that. So I see that as breach to the Constitution. So if I say to you that I stand by the law, I am focusing on the law and not just the Constitution as well, but our rule, the rule that govern us in the House of Parliament. If they have given the Speaker due process, I'm not sure ECOWAS was had problem with them. Because of the refusal to give the Speaker due process, that's the reason why ECOWAS has stated that the mediation did not end well. It ended in deadlock because after ECOWAS spoke to them that they, the self-proclaimed majority bloc, should come in section and put forth their activities or whatever, their claims, their counterclaims. Then, of course, the Speaker will recuse himself. And at that point, two things will be on the agenda. That has to do with the Speaker's refusal and that of the presentation of the budget.
Brown County District 5 Representative Eugene Colley. Officers of the Liberia National Police have reportedly arrested one person and in search of 8 others for allegedly forging the national identification cards under the pretense of giving members of the Liberia Marketing Association loan from the World Bank. The National Identification Registry Executive Director Andrew Peters disclosed that a man believed identified as Christopher Gadi is currently under police custody awaiting investigation and prosecution.
At Red Let yesterday, we received a tip-off from our agent at Santa Red Let involving one Christopher Gadi, who have been issuing fake identity to marketeers and other citizens under the pretense that he worked for the NRA. He also informed the marketers that this program was intended for them to benefit from the World Bank initiative. So we have issued ID cards to citizens at a cost of $10. Some of those people who benefited from his ID card went at the New Star office to verify. They will have our e-verification platform. They were proving that the ID card was a fake card. The national identification card has a unique number, and it can be verified on our e-verification platform. So all of the cards that they submitted at the Lone Star office could not be verified. We have instructed our legal team. Currently, they should be with the county attorney so that we commence the prosecution of he and those involved.
Andrew Peters is the executive director of the Liberia National Identification Registry. As the crisis at the House of Representatives deepens, the former standard bearer of the Green Ochuik Party has stressed the need for the peaceful resolution of the crisis between the majority and minority blocs at the legislature. On Friday, November 22, the Supreme Court ordered the majority bloc at the House of Representatives to cease all its actions and return to status quo ante, while it reviews Speaker Jennifer Fanati Kofa's petition challenging his ouster. Addressing a press conference in Monrovia during the weekend, Dr. Eric Olson said Liberia's democracy is still in its embryonic stage, and there is a space for negotiation in order to resolve the legislative stalemate.
Hoping it could be better. We think it will be better. There is always hope, irrespective of what you see happening. There are a couple of things that needs to happen. Expected that at least some basic groundworks would have been done for that. Well, one thing for certain, the two groups do not work for themselves. So they need each other in order to do the Liberian poor business. So differences in opinion is one thing. Implementing the laws of this country in a way that is outside of our due process and outside of our rules and constitution is a completely different thing. So those are the things that we're looking to get done. But I believe by all means that I think both parties will eventually come together and work. I still will be looking forward to speaking with Representative Cora and see what he has to say, because I really want to speak with him and speaker so that we be able to reconcile that billing, because if the representative hold up the government, it will be disastrous for our people, and that's not what we want them to do. And I just hope they can have a time that we can meet together, because there are a couple of things that I really need to say. I really don't want, if there is an issue of law that is being violated, then the Supreme Court could interpret those laws. From my perspective, I saw the rate he tried to get issued. I don't see what authority the Supreme Court would have over that particular process. Not everything, but that particular process. So, but that's why I think we still need that interpersonal discussion, because at the end of the day, this country grows and become better and second to none on this continent. But we can't do it if we divide it in a house of 73 people when we are over 5 million.
Former standard bearer of the Grand Old Jewish Party, Dr. Eric Olson. Monserrado County District 10 Representative Yeka Koluba is accusing Bon County District 6 lawmaker Mama Briggs Mensa, an executive branch of government, of masterminding plan to remove Speaker Fonati Kofa. Speaking to journalists at his Capitol building office, the District 10 lawmaker disclosed that Councillor J. Fonati Kofa is still the Speaker of the House of Representatives, noting that the majority lawmakers would take the law into their hands if members of the majority bloc refuse to adhere to the Supreme Court ruling.
Fonati Kofa will remain the Speaker of the Republic of Liberia, and he will always remain the Speaker. If anybody thinks that Member Briggs Mensa, that Fonati Kofa is not the Speaker or was going to resign on Monday, you waste your time. There's nothing that will make Fonati Kofa to resign. The only thing that will make Fonati Kofa to resign if you go through the due process. Like we are fouled. We are before the court. Like you people always say, we should respect the law. We will keep respecting the law until the law disrespects itself. But I can safely say to our people and the people of Liberia, if the Supreme Court rule and the ruling of the Supreme Court is not respected, we will take the law into our hands like they are doing. That means there is no law in this country. And if the executive get involved, Joseph Boakai will have to step down. That means he will see to be president of this country no more. I'm saying if the Supreme Court rule and the Supreme Court ruling is not enforced by the executive that's supposed to enforce the ruling of everything, the enforcement arm of this country is the executive. If they cannot enforce it, we will help the Supreme Court to enforce it. Now that we know, like I've been saying, that Joseph Boakai is involved, the whole thing was planned for Member Briggs to come to convince the Speaker to resign so the Speaker can be taken over to LSCC. And this is what you are going to see on that day. If the Speaker is going to resign, when we're going to have the justice thing they did to bring Rachel Kun to live on his left hand to be sworn into office. Look at that kind of reckless thing people are doing. Are those people serious people?
Monserrado District 10 Representative Yeke Koluba. A reminder, you're listening to King's News Broom, 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our one word. Stories are following this afternoon. Supreme Court of Liberia issues stay order, directing the majority bloc of the House of Representatives to halt all actions and return to status quo. Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency Director General Designate accuses Coalition for Democratic Change administration of flooding the agency with over 1,500 unauthorized individuals. And also in the news, Bond County District 5 Representative Eugene Colley terms the majority bloc action as a disrespect to the ECOWAS Parliament mediation delegation. And away from Liberia, at least 24 people have died after two boats carrying mostly Somali nationals campsite off the coast of Madagascar. Local authorities said. We'll take a break to be back with more voices. Welcome back and thanks for being there. Police Inspector General Gregory Coleman has revealed that two police officers are reportedly wounded from a brutal attack on the police in Bensenville. Speaking at the Liberia National Police headquarters in Monrovia, the police boss narrated that the Liberia National Police was informed by some citizens of Benben town in Bensenville for continuous harassment and intimidation by some unscrupulous individuals of the area. The police boss disclosed that two police officers were shot during the exchange, but were later rushed at the JFK hospital, stating the need of prayer for them.
A little over a week ago, we received calls from Ben Town, Benjaminville, for continuous harassment and intimidation in the community. The police responded, first and made some arrests and forwarded individuals to court. Additional operations continue today, and when the officers got on the scene, two of our officers were shot, and as we speak, we have emergency response going back to the scene, and the officers are being conveyed to the JFK hospital for further treatment. At this point in time, we have not contacted the families of the officers, so we cannot release their name. I will ask each and every one of us to please pray for the officers while we get them into safety. Meanwhile, the operations continue to restore calm to the community and maintain peace and quiet there as well. Thank you.
Police Inspector General Gregory Coleman. The president of the Liberia National Student Union, James Washington, has cautioned the Liberia National Police against violent invasion of the campuses of the University of Liberia. Speaking at a press conference in Monrovia, Washington emphasized that such actions undermine academic freedom and disrupt the learning environment, noting that as a direct representation of the students in Liberia, he is calling on the LNP to respect the grounds of learning institutions in Liberia as spaces for intellectual growth and peaceful engagement.
NISU is calling and urging the economic management team of Liberia to address the growing concerns surrounding commodity prices currently in Liberia. In spite of the recent reduction in exchange rates of the Liberian dollars against the US dollar, there has been little or no impact on the prices of essential commodities. While it is imperative that all Liberians are currently faced with social problems and requires urgent solutions, it must be stated that the jobless students of Liberia are hugely affected by these social issues because of financial implications it has. They are financially incapacitated to procure internet service and other things. If you can change money at rate 170 and fast cash card at rate 220, that is economic nonsense. Has to be addressed, and we call on the National Economic Management team to address this adequately. Even the cost of transportation, as the prices of fuel and gas is being reduced, transportation continues to escalate.
We sincerely apologize for that wrong asset. Members of the National Association of Private Teachers Institute, a training institute in Liberia, have elected new officials that will steer the affairs of the association for the next 3 years. The National Association of Private Teachers Training Institute is a conglomeration of private teachers training institutions operating in Liberia. All the new officials of the association were elected on a white ballot over the weekend in a mass meeting at the Boxhoin Junior High School on Abuja Island. Here is Thomas Koba, the Secretary General of the National Association of Private Teacher Training Institute in Liberia, announcing the election results.
Okay, the acting president has been fully occupied, proper as the president had our results. From the result, yes, tell us that indeed the acting president, who now the president, won on one ballot, elect. followed by the Vice President for Administration, also won on ward ballots, followed by the Vice President of Operation, also on ward ballots, Vice President for Training and Quality Assurance, also on ward ballots, VP of International Affairs, also on ward ballots.
President of the association, Reverend Andrew Fire, lauded the members of the National Association of Private Teachers Training Institute for the confidence reposed in him, stressing that he will closely work with other elected officials to engage national government and other partners for the forward march of the association. Briefly away from Liberia, at least 24 people have died after boats carrying mostly Somali nationals campsite off the coast of Madagascar, local authorities said. A statement from Somali's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said efforts were underway to ensure the safe return of the survivors. The two boats carried a total of 70 passengers. The vessels were discovered a draft off Madagascar's north coast on Sunday in the Indian Ocean. It is believed their engines had failed. A senior Somalian government official told local media that survivors were rescued by fishermen. Survivors say they were trying to reach the French island of Mayotte, a common but dangerous route for Somali migrants seeking asylum. Well, on that note, that's how we come to a near end of this edition of King's Newsroom. But before we leave, a quick reminder of stories we followed in the headlines. Supreme Court of Liberia issues state order directing the majority bloc of the House of Representatives to halt all actions and return to status quo. Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency Director General Designate accuses Coalition for Democratic Change administration of flooding the agency with over 1,500 unauthorized persons. You also heard in the news, Brown County District 5 Representative Eugene Colley terms the majority bloc action as a disrespect to the ECOWAS Parliament mediation delegation. And away from home, at least 24 people have died after two boats carrying mostly Somali nationals campsite off the coast of Madagascar, local authorities said. Many thanks to our reporters, correspondents, and all those who helped in making this edition of King's Newsroom Resources. Sam Andrews brought you the news bulletin. Colonius Johnson sat at control and handled the technical aspect of this production. On behalf of the team, I'm Sherman Deer. I presented. Thanks for listening and watching.